I'm so sorry. I was recording on the wrong page. Oh dear. So I hope it's okay if I start again, Anna. I hope it's okay. Text me if it's not okay, but I will start again. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't have any idea. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Anna, please text me and let me know I'm doing this the right way. Okay. So I'm going to start again. All right, so what I wanted to do was read from my book in progress, which is based on experiences of people living behind the walls. I've done a lot of writing classes in jails and prisons, and this book, okay, I think I'm on the Poets in Pajamas page. Okay, good. And this book is based on my experiences of people I met there. Okay. Who lurks in the shadows of our midnights? Oh, and I should say I'll read for about 15 minutes or so, and then questions and comments, please. Okay. Who lurks in the shadows of our midnights? A draft of body-soaked clothes wafts through hallways, the sores and wounds of outrageous fortune, bleeding through air, whether stifling hot or cold. Warehouse-sized rooms overflowing with children nobody wants or wanted too much. Bodies scarred with the semen and broken dreams of damaged adults who raised or raised them. Encased in concrete and steel ribs of 2- and 3-tiered sagging bunks on which languish decaying bodies of men and women, cementing the soft shell of 2.5 million children who never were and counting. Thank you, Anna. I see that you've joined. Oh, what a relief. Okay, thank you so much. All right, hi, Anna. I'm so sorry, I was on the wrong page. Oh dear. Okay, I'll just keep going, okay? All right. Slipping in and out of shadows, seeking matter among perennial strangers and not. On blank pages, lined, confined, and not. Letting names of this and that emerge into light. Wanting, not wanting to be found. Men and women in orange carve their black and white, wanting to be known and not known, facing the known and the unknown, shadows no one wants to see. In the shadows of the jailhouse, men and women begin to see and recede. So in case you missed the beginning, because I know there's a bit of a time lag, I'm reading from a book in progress on my experiences teaching men and women behind the walls, as I teach a lot of writing classes in jails and prisons. Okay, and it's the first time I'm reading this publicly. Okay, thank you so much. And I'll just continue now. Not a dramatic reconstruction, but a culmination that keeps on culminating. A process of unwelding, a reforging, soldering together metallic fragments of an interrupted life. A series of battles won and not, completing the story of an undoing, and in so doing, construct a redoing. Scars remain, a body a map upon which blood was spilled. Some comfort themselves in the land of tell no one nothing, I ain't no snitch, not even about oneself. No one ever knows the whole truth, what goes on behind the scenes. I caught a case. It wasn't my fault. If only I had, if only I were, if only I could. Perhaps on every headstone, not Veni, Vidi, Vici, but no truth on which we stand, one not knowing under no God, in a landscape carved in mirrors and shadows. All Dorothy had to do was put on red shoes. Men and women use a pencil not to be a disappeared, not a knot. Can you hold two realities in your head at one time? You are who you are, and you are who you were. The classroom glares like a radiation chamber, rectangular funnels of light ricocheting off walls of concrete and steel, between more concrete and steel. The stratosphere of San Francisco County Jail. I stand in front of the chalkboard, littered with broken psalms, gang emblems. I'm there to teach writing, to turn the classroom into a lighthouse, show how a pencil can be used as a laser beam to illuminate the scars of those thrashing about in the waters. Incarceration is being caught in shark's teeth, 3 rows pointing inward, One falls out. A lawyer fucks up. No time off or time served. No possibility of parole. Another tooth pulling each one of the men closer to the throat, closer to being swallowed up. Our society's disappeared. I tell my students to think of their confinement as a writing retreat, all expenses paid, while I go to jail armed with 3 dots and a jot to dig into where I am not. We say light is life and dark is death, but when a seed rises above the ground, it starts to die. When a baby leaves the womb, it starts to die. When the leaves of a tree get too much light, they wrinkle and fall. What if the shadow was really the light, and the light the shadow? My students are hidden in the shadows because tall, black, and short on green wrote the man with the moniker Hallmark. Because moms didn't love me, wrote Shanice. Because my stepfather said choose me or him, and she chose him, wrote Janice. I've been homeless since I was 12. When I refused to do the laundry, she burned my books, wrote Peter. That way, I learned the importance of education. My babysitter made me stick my pee-pee in my sister, wrote Tom. Because. How many crimes are committed in the name of I exist, I matter? How many crimes in the name of I don't matter and you're going to pay? Let us set up a memorial dedicated to all the men and women living inside. Let's announce in the obituaries the names of those who serve on the battlefield of society's wastelands. The sores and wounds of outrageous fortune living in a sea amongst us, seen and not seen, sown and not sown, inside the seams of prison walls. We are all perpetrators. We are all victims, Lee Circle writes. He watched his father beat up his mother, who said, "You are just like your father," and "I became my father," in jail for domestic violence. Steve watched his mother pickpocket his father. He became his mother and stole only so much that the victim would notice him as little as his mother did. "Who will catch me if I fall?" asked the young man with the swollen eye, Germaine. We're all looking for a father, protector. Some people call this God. Some people call this an empty hole never filled. Step right up, take your pick. Father is, just like those corny Hallmark ditties, Joe with the broken teeth writes. Father is love, protection, who to call at night when lights go out, who to ask when, what should I do, escapes between the lips under a no moonlit ceiling, buzzing with strips of white light. Net under the tightrope, web under the feet, white root arcing up through the soil on which she or he stands, one nation under God. Mister refuses to allow anyone to call him by his first name. I won't cry. I promised myself I wouldn't cry, he says, and cries as he reads about being tied to a beam in the basement of his father's home, beaten with an extension cord until senseless, crying and reading until smack. The classroom door slams open. Ghostly pale and jawed, a deputy barks the call back to the 6 dorms on the lower level, one of 7 buildings of this county jail. Anna, can I ask you something? Do you think it might be a good idea for me to send a comment to the people who were watching on my site? Anyway, I'll look for your response. 6 dorms designed for 45 men, now holding 60, soon to be 70 or 80, set beneath 7 administrative offices hovering above, 4 rounded windows to keep 2, 4, 6 eyes on 240 men day and night, week by week, month by month, year by year. One man worth $30 a day. Count, the deputy, a master in the playground he wishes he'd always been. In his grasp, a pen and pad of paper. No more shuffling of papers, whispers to neighbors, fingers tapping on desks. A dorm, Adam, stand up. 3 men shoot to their feet. Checked off in a black ballpoint pen, black, a color forbidden to inmates, except for skin. A number scribbled on a pad, clipped to a brown board. B dorm, Baker. There's no one from B dorm in here, offers a man with a tattooed face. Abandoned at 5, ping pong between meth relatives. He ran away at 12 for the streets, with a dog, a girl, and a lifetime of prison. His face tattooed, so no one will mess with me. The officer glares in caricature. What about quiet, don't you understand? E-dorm, Edward. 5 men shuffle to their feet. Centuries masked behind bowed heads, silent lips. Yes, massa. F, Frank dorm. The last stands to be counted, the one beaten with an extension cord tied to a beam in a basement. Men in orange standing to be counted. Clock on the wall, ticking above, mounted. 1, 2, buckle your shoe. 3, 4, knock at the door. Deputy soon to Iraq will be called. Black body bags back home will be hauled. No more standing up to be counted. Clock ticking on the wall, mounted. 3 hots and a cot, the 3 R's. Revive, resuscitate, relieve. People come to jail hungry, says Bobby. It's horrible to see how hungry people get. All they do is take drugs and don't eat because they don't have the money. 3 hots and a cot, the 3 R's. Revive, resuscitate, relieved, not to be on the streets. Men and women in orange grow like trees inside, where there is no light or air. When they come back from the street, air and sunlight, they look like stumps, emaciated. This is an escape, says Leo, peering wide-eyed. Second night back in jail after a month on the street, cheekbones jutting out in his gaunt face. When I'm out there hustling, it's hard. Jail is a chance to come back to ground. Jail is mommy, prison is big daddy, writes the pumped, muscled, tattooed from head to foot, leader of the gang, caller of the shots. I carried the drugs for him, writes Anisha, tossing back her braids. He tried to throw me off the roof. Tamika, whose piece on how many times she's been in jail, 64 at the age of 25, gets published clandestinely in a magazine. Last week, bald head glowing through smoky night air on Mission Street, shaking in her Joneses in the barest of cotton shrouds. Remember your story you got published? Bending close, saying her name over and over again, but she's enmeshed in gray haze. You should follow me around one day to see what my life is like, says Janelle, who refuses to write anything, anytime, refuses to crack the code to keep me and mine safe. Janelle doodles an egg nestling in straw. She's 6 months pregnant with one seeing eye. The other shot the same day the father of her child gushed a river of bullet blood. And then Timothy S., who writes about looking after his disabled father, who describes how he loved school, but that ain't cool in my neighborhood. So he blew it off to fit in with boys he called kin. Last week, a week after back to the streets, shot twice in the chest, dumped from a car on Potrero and 17th. Some blame the women he was seeing. Bad news, they say, shaking their heads. Some blame his relapse. Some blame his previous violence against the man who was said to have killed him. What kind of life is it when a 25-year-old man is shot twice in the chest and dumped on the street? The only way to deal with the pain, have someone to blame. Pain ekes out, word by word, stone by stone, on a dead man's grave. Whatever is alive keeps growing. The man is dead, so the story grows, until it too is forgotten. The man is dead, and so the story grows, until he too is forgotten. A monument to the tune of the unknown African American. We say light is life and dark is death, but when a seed rises above the ground, it starts to die. When a baby leaves the womb, it starts to die. When the leaves of a tree get too much light, they wrinkle and fall. What if the shadow was really the light, and the light the shadow? Thank you very much. So let's see if anybody has any questions. So let's see, do I answer? Okay, so I'm going to ask Anna, do you think it might be an idea to send a message to people on my page to have them join. So let me see if anybody, Joshua, thank you so much for your comment. I wonder if you might have a question or anything. So I'm going to quickly go over to my other page and then I'll send a message. Let's see. Please. Okay. So hopefully somebody will ask a question. I guess what I should do is talk a little bit. That's Anna, that's what you had said. So I've taught in people who are incarcerated for a very long time, since 2001. And I started out in the San Francisco County Jail. And then I worked there for 12 years, teaching writing classes. And then I ended up teaching a few other classes as well. And then I also taught in San Quentin for a couple of years. And now that I'm living in Sonoma County, I teach in the juvenile jail. I do some poetry gigs there. And I've decided in 2013 or so that what I really would like to do is teach children and try to help them not end up incarcerated. So I'm teaching poetry in the schools now up here in Sonoma County and really love it. Let's see, I wasn't able to give my full attention. Okay, Joshua. But all right, well, thank you. Anna, do you want to ask a question or make a comment? I could read a little bit more poetry. Not sure if I should do that. So maybe let's see if another comment comes in or, okay. I know that there's a bit of a time lag. Let's see, maybe I'm going to read something else. This poem, I was here during the fires. Let's see where I put that poem. I was here during the fires in 2017 and escaped to San Francisco because I thought that there would be less smoke there, but it was incredibly smoky. And I was so shocked when a friend of mine told me that she had seen people wearing leopard print breathing masks. The fires had just started, and people were already wearing fashion accessories. And I just thought, wow, is that the world, what the world has come to, you know? So I wrote this poem in response to it. So let me see if I can just quickly find this right now. If not, it's up on my website, so I'll just click over to that. Oh, here we go. All right, so this one is called Accessories for the Apocalypse. Inspired by hearing that a friend spotted a San Franciscan with a leopard print breathing mask during the fires in Sonoma, Napa County's October 2017. Note, leopards are becoming extinct. So again, the title is Accessories for the Apocalypse, available at Amazon, roads permitting. Gas masks with Uber logo in case anyone needs a ride. Rubber bucket-soled easy to slip on shoes. Pocket oars that can also serve as fans to cool down in climate change temperatures. Fireproof hairspray for high winds. Yoga mats printed with upbeat slogans for spiritual street sleeping. Frappuccino sculpted emergency water bottles as a reminder that life is good. Fold-up cell phone chargers tattooed with no worries. Earbud implants to drown out fire engines, police cars, ambulances. Renewable hemp chewing gum to keep the mouth moist in cases of extreme panic. Fold-up, easy-to-carry wooden prongs to dry handkerchiefs, wet zones only. A combined water fireproof guide, 9 ways to love yourself in times of emergency, also useful as pillows and shelters. Fireproof Wellington boots that turn inside out to become water wings. White sleeping bag on a stick to sleep in by night and wave from a rooftop by day. Inflatable raft doubling up as a dining table for 6, in case. Rollerblades that play Stevie Wonder's Hotter Than July when in motion. Baseball cap with wig attached when hairdresser can't be located. Portable solar panel to make morning espresso. Portable mailbox. No spandex. So we're praying now that there aren't going to be more fires because it's been extremely windy lately and very, very dry. So, okay, so let's see. Anna, anybody have a question or a comment? Oh, I see 6 comments here. Oh, here we go. All right. All right. Will you read this piece to people in prison? Yes, yes, I will. Yes, I actually have shared some of the poetry with people that I work with in prison. Yeah, and they really appreciate it, I have to say. Yeah, because they feel very invisible. So, yeah, thank you for the question. That's a nice question. Let's see if there are any more. I know, scrolling down. All right. So I'm curious to know why you asked. Do you want to say more about that, Don? All right. And Joshua, I hope that your kids are doing okay, having a bath. All right. Anybody else? Okay. I wonder if you might be interested. I wrote a short essay about the work I do with children, which sort of gives a sense of the power of poetry in the classroom. Let's see where I put that. I left it on my desk somewhere. Let's see here. I really love teaching so much, and I think it might be here. Here we go. Let's see here. Yeah, it's just pretty amazing to see what poetry does for people, but I'm sure everybody kind of knows that who's listening in. Let's see, we have another comment here. Let's see, I know there's a bit of a time lag, so let's see if this comes in. All right, I'll keep looking at the screen to see, but in the meantime, I'll read this short essay. And this is called I Hate Poetry. In October 2017, fires swept through Santa Rosa, where I live, with whole communities burned to ash, and hundreds losing their homes and jobs in this brave new world of climate change. Unable to get out of my pajamas from grief and fear, and temporarily dislocated in San Francisco, I volunteered a poetry class at an elementary school where I had done a residency in the past. Amid the devastation, the only place to feel some sort of hope was with children being creative. Let me see if any comments. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right. This is a nice question. Oh, okay. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, both Annas, Annie and Anna. Okay. So first of all, Don, what I see in the people that I work with in prison through writing is they really start to feel much more confident in themselves. They start to see themselves a lot more. They start to see themselves much more like writers and not sort of imprisoned in the identities that have been constructed for them, really, by society, and that many have bought into because they haven't known anything else. And I actually would like to tell you about a book that I published of my students' poetry and prose. It's called Only the Dead Can Kill. So if you want to look at my website, margoperin.com, you'll see it there. And if you read the preface to that book, and if you're interested, email me and I'll send you the preface. That really shows a lot about, it sort of describes what people go through when they start to write. Anna, thank you. And then Annie, about my writing process. For me, the best way to write is just to first of all, not just find the time, make the time. Definitely make the time. I read a wonderful essay in Poets and Writers magazine a couple of months ago by what was her name? Camilla. I have to remember. Anyway, you can email me. I actually scanned it because I've been sending it out to people, and it's about writing, just making sure that you always write. And it was a nice boost for me because I teach a lot and I also publish people. And so, and I vacuum when I should be writing, and I hate vacuuming. So you know how it is, I'm sure. But once I do make the time to write, what I like to do is just write. I just try to get myself out of the way and write everything that I want to say about that. And it's almost like I've created this lump of clay, and then I start editing it. So to me, that's the best way. If I started with, I never start with an outline because that just puts me in my head, and that's not the place where I feel I write the best. So I try to just write from the cells of my body and really tune into my intuition and write from there. So let me know what you think about that. And if you write yourself, how do you, like, what's your process? Let's see here, Erin. Oh, this is a great question, Erin. What I think is definitely write about what you care about and what you think the solutions are. I also feel it's very, very important as writers is to give other people the opportunity to share their thoughts and feelings. I feel especially strongly about not appropriating other people's experiences. So in my book, what I'm doing is I have a lot of italicized lines of the writing that my students have done with their permission. And so that their voices come through the writing. And what I'm doing is I'm filtering what they've said through a framework. I've created a framework for it, and also my own perspective on it. So not on what they've said, but on the experience of being incarcerated and what society is doing to people. So definitely write about it, definitely do talks. My favorite part of doing readings is the conversation with the audience, and also hosting readings for people whose voices are not normally heard. And often when formerly incarcerated writers do readings, the audience members, I always encourage people to talk to each other afterwards, because, as writers, people very rarely come up to us and say, oh, I loved your work, or tell you, or have a conversation with you. Often I think that people are too shy to do that, or it doesn't cross their minds how much we need to hear that. So when people are interacting after readings, I've often heard people who come from very different backgrounds say to people who have been incarcerated, I had no idea that I had anything in common with you. So I think as writers, we can not just write about the experiences, provide opportunities for people whose voices are not heard to be heard, but also to encourage interactions between people, to create bridges. One of the projects I did with poetry was I taught poetry in a high school for the arts in San Francisco. Across the street is the juvenile jail. And there was a program in an annex of formerly incarcerated and targeted youth. I did poetry there, and they both wrote about the same things, and then I shared the work of each with each other. So again, it's about bridges, trying to create bridges. Okay, let's see, let me scroll down a little, and let me know what you think. I'd love to know what you think. All right, scrolling down, let's see if I see anything here. So I'm seeing more comments, but I think they take a little while to come in. Let's see here, yeah. Okay, so let me know what you think about that. Okay, and what kind of writing do you do? And the criminal reform, I think the more the people who have been incarcerated have a venue in which to speak about their experiences, write about their experiences, be heard, the more things are likely to change. Definitely. So let me know what you think about that. Okay, so do you talk to them about Soul on Ice? Oh, that's a great book. That is great. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And I bring in lots of different poetry, and also show YouTube videos of poets reading. And yeah. So again, it's also the exposure. One thing I'm thinking about now is talking more about the lives of poets. And because I feel like there's so little time in the classroom. I get between 45 and 60 minutes in a session. And I want the students to write as much as they can and to share their work. But I'm thinking now it would be a very good idea to also talk a little bit about the poets themselves, why they write, because that also can create bridges between people, Okay, let's see if there's another comment coming in. Okay, here we go. Let's see. To what extent you get permission for those who wrote before you incorporate it into your poetry before? Well, I have, when I was working on the book, Only the Dead Can Kill, I got permissions from every student in there, every author in there. And now when I'm working with people in the classroom, I get their permission. There's also something where when you quote, when you have a line from something, that, you know, they give me their permission. So I do forms, or I get, you know, I get their written consent, and sometimes I get their verbal consent, because people, like, I'm also working with people who were incarcerated, and their lives tend to be pretty chaotic because there are very, very few resources to help people once they're out. So sometimes I see somebody just for one session and I don't see them again. So I always make sure that they're comfortable. And I publish people too. When I publish people and it's their whole poem, not just a line, I always get a permission form signed. Yeah, we have to do that because it's respecting the author, and they keep the rights so they can do whatever they want with it. Okay. Okay. Well, informing. Okay, so if any of you have comments about anything that we've talked about so far, that would be really nice too, because I really like to hear where you're coming from and what you might think. And then we have 3 more minutes. Okay, so anything? Okay. Maybe I'll read a little bit more of this essay while I'm waiting to hear. All right, so this is about a little kid that I worked with in a classroom. He wasn't incarcerated, thank God. And he was saying how much he hated poetry and he didn't want to write anything. So I asked him, what would you rather be doing? And he wrote down, and I said, just write about what you'd rather be doing. Excuse me a minute. And he ran off to his desk, suddenly not bored anymore. And he wrote, I rather being helping my dad with trash than being here doing these poems and watering my lemon tree so he doesn't die and he lives. And this was in the context of me being in San Francisco and doing a voluntary class to kind of cheer up a little bit, because the fires were raging up in Sonoma and I was trying to sort of cope with that. So I responded to him, I really like this, I said, ignoring the misspellings. I have a lemon tree too, and I know what you mean. I was hoping it was still there when I got back to Santa Rosa, along with my home. I leaned over his desk, pencil in hand. And then what I did is I said to him, you read out the poem, and I'm going to put a slash wherever you take a breath, and then you're going to rewrite the poem and do it in lines, because he wrote it like a run-on sentence. Okay, there's a comment coming in here. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Joshua. I hope it answered the question. Okay. So anyway, so I showed him, then he rewrote the poem. Okay, and I'm aware that we only have a couple of minutes left. So then his poem was, I'd rather be helping my dad with trash than being here doing these poems and watering my lemon tree so he doesn't die and he lives. The boy pointed to a picture of a minuscule lemon tree beneath his poem. Oh, you did a drawing too. That's great. Can I take a picture? I want to show my friends to cheer them up because everyone's feeling bad right now. He nodded soberly. Okay, will you read it to the class? And then, long story short, he said no. And then I told him everybody would love the poem. So then he said, well, okay, I will read it. So then other kids read their poems, and then he came up and he read his poem, and he had changed it. And instead of saying that he hated poetry, he wrote, I like poetry. And he said he hated playing games. I thought that was a big step in the right direction. So, and he also had drawn another tree, which was much bigger, and he also was much bigger. So it was lovely. So that's poetry for you. So anyway, please feel free to contact me at margoperin.com. I have a contact page. Let me see if there's anybody else here who wants anything. Any comment, or I would really love some of your experiences. So anyway, please feel free to contact me through my website, margoperin.com. No T, 1 R, okay? And I look forward to hearing from you. All right, and Anna, I want to be conscious of the 30 minutes, so thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this. I'm sorry I screwed up at the beginning and got on the wrong website, wrong Facebook page. And thank you. I love the series, and I love what you're doing. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you so much.